Hi, I'm Arik Grant, comic artist, National Guard soldier, historian, and dog papa. And I'm going to Kosovo, so you don't have to. What the hell's a Kosovo? Find out in a moment.
Ready or not, well, here they come, just like 1931.
So I haven't made a video in a long time, and the biggest reason why is that my National Guard unit has been picked to deploy to Kosovo for a NATO peacekeeping operation. Kosovo is a small region of the Balkans. It is surrounded by Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. Kosovo wants to be a free and independent country on its own, and it has everything it needs to fulfill that dream, except for one thing: the permission of the Serbian people and the Serbian government. So why is Serbian permission necessary, and why are they so reluctant to give it? Most modern explanations go back to the breakup of Yugoslavia in the 1990s. But the roots of the problem actually go back much earlier. How earlier? Mostly to the medieval times. But let's take a look at the history. The Balkans have been inhabited since Paleolithic times by various ethnic groups. One of these groups was the Illyrians, a probably misapplied collective term for a bunch of local tribes such as the Dardanians, the Albanians, the Macedonians, Greeks, and others. These tribes had come under the domination of the Roman Empire, and as the Roman Empire turned to Christianity in the 400s, the local Roman populations, including the Roman citizens of the Balkans, also began to turn to Christianity. Bookmark that Roman part because it becomes important later. Now in the 6th century, so about 200 years later, there was a large Slavic migration into the area from northern and eastern Europe. One of these groups of Slavs came to be known as the Serbians. Now, by the year 1217, both the Roman and Byzantine religious authorities recognized the Kingdom of Serbia. By 1346, it had grown into the Serbian Empire and dominated almost the entire territory of the Balkans, and was larger than the later nation of Yugoslavia. The Serbian Empire was ruled by Dusan the Mighty from 1346 until his death in 1355, and rulership passed to his son, Uros the Weak. As the name suggests, things did not go well for Uros in the medieval real estate market, and by 1371, the once powerful Serbian Empire, which was briefly one of the most powerful kingdoms in Europe, broke into small feudal confederacies, all ethnically Serbian and all adhering to Eastern Orthodox religious beliefs, but unable to agree on a common unifying leader. Now, if there's one thing we know about history, it's that if you have a bunch of squabbling factions arguing among themselves, you can get them to unify by having a powerful enemy try to invade. And that's exactly what happened in the year 1389 when the Ottoman Empire invaded. The Ottomans had been making a name for themselves around the Anatolian Peninsula since the year 1299, when the Turkic tribal leader Osman I organized his principality into the beginnings of a transcontinental empire. By the time the Ottomans moved into the fractured remnants of the Serbian Empire, they were a well-established conquest machine. Although they had not yet conquered Constantinople by this time, that city's days were numbered, and it would fall to the Ottomans under Emperor Mehmed II in 1453, just 29 years before Columbus's voyage to the Caribbean. When the Ottomans invaded the disunified Serbian kingdoms, one Serbian prince stepped up to the challenge, and this is where the cult of Kosovo begins. Yes, it really is called the Cult of Kosovo. That is its official name. Stay tuned, we'll get there. Prince Lazar Hrebeljanović, I apologize for my atrocious pronunciation. He is mostly known outside of Serbia as Lazar of Serbia, which is the title I will use. Anyhow, Lazar of Serbia was born in Kosovo, which was a Serbian principality at the time. He was born in 1329, so he would have had memories of the Serbian Empire, and he wanted to resurrect the empire with himself as its czar. Now, when the Ottomans invaded, he had an opportunity to unite the competing factions and defeat the invading Ottomans at the Battle of Kosovo, in Kosovo Field, just 5 kilometers or 3.1 freedom miles northwest of the modern city of Pristina. Lazar led a coalition of forces against the Ottomans, mostly fellow Serbians, but also a few auxiliary forces from other European Christian kingdoms that each had their own reasons for wanting to keep the Ottoman Muslims out of Europe. Now, the Ottomans were brought to a stop by this combined force, and during this battle, the Ottoman Sultan, Murad I, was killed in battle. Now, this marks the one and only time that an Ottoman Sultan was killed on the field of combat, and it happened just outside of Pristina in Kosovo. While the Ottoman invasion was halted, it did not mean that things looked good for the Serbians. In fact, Lazar of Serbia was also killed in battle, and he was the most important unifying figure among the Serbian kingdoms. It also didn't help that most of the best Serbian grunts that could swing a sword had been killed as well. Now the Ottomans could go drum up a few more reserve troops from the rest of their empire, but the Serbian forces did not have a deep bench to draw reinforcements from. The result is that when the Ottomans returned for a rematch the following year, they ended up conquering the area and eventually going on to be stopped at the Siege of Vienna in 1529. During the period of Ottoman rule, most of the Serbian kingdoms were allowed a degree of autonomy, but Kosovo was kept by the Ottomans until 1912. This made things interesting from an ethnic perspective for the following reasons. See, while Kosovo had been part of the various Serbian kingdoms and the short-lived Serbian Empire, it is important to remember that a large part of the population was not Slavic, but a Paleo-Balkan tribe known as the Illyrians. More specific to Kosovo, an Illyrian Dardani Albanian ethnic cluster more closely related to the Greeks than to the Slavs. When the Roman Empire dominated the land, they called it Dardania, and in fact, modern-day ethnic Albanians who live in Kosovo sometimes prefer to use the term Dardania instead of Kosovo. Okay, remember that Roman part I asked you to bookmark earlier because it would be important? Now we're there. You see, back when the Roman Empire converted to Christianity, they took a lot of their provinces with it. That included the province of Dardania. So a large Roman Catholic population was still there, living side by side with their Eastern Orthodox neighbors. While the Ottomans controlled Albania and Kosovo, they undertook a process of Islamicization, encouraging people to convert from Roman Catholic Christianity to Islam. Now I say Roman Catholic specifically because that was who the Ottomans targeted for this process of religious and cultural assimilation. They largely left the Serbian Eastern Orthodox Christians alone because the heart of Eastern Orthodoxy was Constantinople, which the Ottomans had conquered and ruled from. Roman Christians, however, gave their allegiance to the Church of Rome and the throne of Peter in the Holy See, in the Vatican. This was a competing empire to the Ottomans, and so they considered this unacceptable. However, they saw the Eastern Orthodox Christians as their homeboys because they were all ruled out of Constantinople. Catholic churches were taxed and regulated, and Muslims enjoyed more rights and social mobility than Catholics. This slow process took generations, but a Muslim majority grew among the local Illyrian ethnic groups, Dardanian and Albanian, while there was not a similar growth among the Serbian Orthodox population. The Balkans became a battleground between the Ottomans and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and eventually Ottoman influence and power began to decline. As the Ottomans pulled away, Albania and Kosovo was left with an Albanian ethnic group that had converted to Islam, and a dwindling Serbian Orthodox ethnic group that was now a minority in one of their most important former provinces, Kosovo. As Ottoman rule faded, the Serbs wanted to take back Kosovo, which was not just part of their former ethnic homeland, but had also been a cornerstone in their ethno-national foundation myths. The first major European resistance to Ottoman invasion had happened in Kosovo, and the one and only time an Ottoman sultan was killed in battle happened in Kosovo, and he fell to a Serbian sword. But now, from the Serbians' perspective, the place was overrun by Islamic Albanians put there by the Ottomans. The Serbs wanted it back. Now at this point I can dive deep into a lot of Serbian nationalist history here. There's the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, the early Kingdom of Serbia, the Balkan Wars, but really the important thing is to jump ahead to the end of World War II and the formation of the Federated Socialist Republic of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was ruled by Josip Broz Tito. He was an anti-Axis partisan fighter who fought the Nazis and their allies, the Italians, the Bulgarians, and the Hungarians, that had occupied different parts of Yugoslavia. While Tito himself was Croat and Slovenian, the capital city of Yugoslavia was in Belgrade, in Serbia, and so a lot of the top seats in government were in the hands of ethnic Serbians. Serbia was also the largest and most populous of the Yugoslavian provinces, so Serbia was able to use Yugoslavian power and authority to carry out Serbia-specific goals. One of these goals was to retake Kosovo for Serbia. Serbian heavy-handedness was not just a problem for Kosovo, however. Under the guise of Yugoslavian authority, the Serbian-dominated government also pushed Serbian policies in Croatia and Bosnia, and when the Soviet Union collapsed, the legitimacy of communist-based government was challenged. As the Yugoslavian republics began to break away and declare independence, the Serbian-dominated government found itself fighting a multi-front ethnic war on increasingly smaller parcels of territory. The brutality of the Yugoslavian civil war and breakup is hard to overstate. It was ugly. And this was the war that made ethnic cleansing a common household term. NATO got involved, and the fighting largely stabilized along the current international borders, with the exception of one place. You guessed it, Kosovo. In 1999, there was another brief flare-up of tensions and another brief war, and as a result, NATO has established KFOR, or Kosovo Force, to keep the two groups separated. Kosovo is the center of Serbian identity. It is where they forged themselves as a nation. It is where they stood up and defended Europe from invasion before the Austrians took all the credit. They resisted Islamification, they killed a sultan in battle, and preserved Orthodox religious practice. Letting Kosovo go is like letting the Ottomans win one last battle, taking their heartland from them from beyond the grave. Now that said, Kosovo is 92% ethnic Albanian and only 4% ethnic Serbian. Lazar of Serbia's descendants left long ago, and like it or not, the ground has shifted from beneath their feet. It may be bitter to accept, but that is the truth. Kosovo has everything it needs to stand on its own and be its own country, but the Serbs cannot let go of the past. I admit I'm actually a bit sympathetic, but it is not worth another Balkan bloodbath. It's time to accept it, make peace, and visit as friends. Both Serbia and Kosovo have more to gain as eventual partners in the EU and NATO. Until that day comes, though, people like me will have to continue to stand on the line between the two sides and wait for reason to hold sway over nationalist pride. Well, I hope you enjoyed this historical background of Kosovo and the problem there. Maybe in the future I'll do another art and politics video about Ukraine or maybe the Middle East. People ask me about these things a lot, considering how much time I've been in the Army and the years I spent in the Middle East. So if this is even remotely interesting, let me know and we'll go from there. So until then, leave your comments and questions below, like and subscribe, you know the usual, if you found this interesting. If you have questions, ask away, and I will try to address them in a future video, which hopefully won't take as long as this one. Thanks, and see you all next time.
And if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going, do you? And things that might have happened back in the dark recesses of history can't happen again, can they?